Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Roundtable here at GatherVerse 2024 AI Summit, the rise of generative AI and decoding AI for education. Audience, we're certainly happy to have all of you here today at GatherVerse.live and the multiple places that we're streaming and broadcasting across the internet, if you will, if that's still even a thing that exists in this generative world of technology. We're so happy to have all of you that are with us, even in our small corner of the GatherVerse world, our YouTube stream, where people are chatting, expressing, sharing, and LinkedIn and Facebook, Instagram, X, and elsewhere. Panel, we have a lot of wood to chop, if you will. We have a lot of places to go, and we only ever really have so much time to be able to do it. So as we move forward, what I want to do is go person to person, but I really want to keep this at an accelerated fashion. And I want you to begin talking about what is your present focus when it comes to AI and education. But I want you to introduce yourself and then answer the question. Eli, kick it off, please.
Certainly. So hello, everybody. You can call me Eli or Ellie. I am a soon-to-be graduate from the University of Massachusetts Amherst in data analytics and computational social science. My current focus right now is on advocating for technoliteracy wherever and whenever possible. I believe that technoliteracy is both the bridge and barrier for both consent and ethical production and development of technology.
Thank you, Ellie. Alan?
Hi, my name is Alan. I'm with Studio Bahia. We design therapies in virtual reality. We're using AI at this time for in a variety of ways with educational institutions, specifically research institutions. And so I hope to talk about that today. Thank you.
We'll be talking much more about that, Alan. Thank you very much. David, you're up. Welcome back.
Thank you. Yes, definitely. David Lockett, School of Applied Computational Sciences at Meharry Medical College, where we're advancing scholarship and computational thinking in three realms of innovating, connecting, and serving. We've got a vast repertoire of projects focusing specifically on the NSF, expand AI, funding opportunity, and several opportunities revolutioning artificial intelligence and computational learning.
Welcome back, David. And Meharry, it's such a fine establishment, an institute of education, if you will. Dr. Haman Chandran or Dr. Kanan, please.
Hi, Christopher, and thank you for inviting me for this panel discussion. I am Dr. Hemachandran Kannan. I'm the Director of AI Research Center, and also I'm the Associate Dean for the School of Business at Watson University. So we are making this AI chatbot and metaverse as a new innovation pedagogy for our students to learn the complex topics in gaming way. That's what we are implementing it, and we are doing it for each courses, and we are building in the course curriculum. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Kanan. And Jamaal, we're so happy to be able to have you here with our first gather with you, especially when on education. You and I have had some very incredible and very mind-opening discussions, if you will. Will you share with us some of those things and give us the outlook on who you are?
Sure. Jamaal Thomas. I co-founded Black on Black Education with my daughter, who's a teacher in the South Bronx. Our focus at Black on Black Education is making sure that the education system becomes much more responsive to students' needs, to their curiosities, to the challenges that they want to solve in the world. As an individual, I'm now focused way more in on artificial intelligence literacy as well as futures literacy, helping kids to take a look and understand their place in the world today, and the place in the world that they can actually create.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Jamaal. Roundtable, our panel, I tell you now, we're going to stay scripted and off scripted. We're going to be on track, off track. We're in the forest, we're in the meadow. We're jumping all around. We need to, because that's what time it is. Ellie, help me to understand something. You're in the trenches of UMass right now as we speak. You're in there. You're in the warfare of education. When we talk about AI, you're seeing what's happening as a real-time living example. What does it look like to be a student in 2024 in January in this present era of AI?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I think right now it is a back and forth of the ethics of using AI in general from a student perspective. And I'm hearing a lot of conversations from different coalitions. Just last year, the 5 colleges, which is the University of Massachusetts, Amherst College, Smith College, Mount Holyoke, and Hampshire, as well as Williams College, have come together to create an AI coalition amongst libraries to talk about the ethics of giving access to AI or why students use AI. And so I'm part of those coalitions talking about why are students using AI. For me personally, I've used AI mostly for my own curiosity. For example, I just took a quantitative analysis course and I had a lot of fun taking multiple different AI tools and giving them the same prompt that I was expecting to answer and seeing how each one came out with a completely different answer when it's just math. So, from a student perspective, many are using it in order to deal with the workload. From my perspective, I'm just being a nerd about it and exploring the ways that we are generating responses for our innovators of the future.
It's a very fascinating consideration. And let me do a quick follow-up with that, Ellie. Has it been dramatic in change for 2023 leading into 2024, or has it been more subtle in this transition?
I would say subtle in terms of actual workload or in the ways that it's being used. In terms of job hunting, definitely more dramatic because there's so much more stress about how much AI do I know? How can I use AI to help me in the job hunting process? So it's a very interesting switch from in school, it's the same progression of how can I use this to get my essay done. But in terms of job hunting, it's how can I learn as much as I can about this thing or learn what role is about to be replaced by AI.
And I think this catalyzes it justifies the reason for new education, new educational settings that we're seeing, Jamaal, new ventures are going off and rethinking and reimagining education outside of these incredible educational institutions that we see. And you are doing just that. You ventured off into a new space, a new venture, because you and I know that the importance of emerging technologies and the acceleration therein is so critically vast that most people, even technologists, are in need to go back to becoming students to some degree, Jamaal.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, we live in a time where change is occurring at such a rapid pace, but we're human beings who don't, like change. And to me, it's, I say to people all the time, civil society is not promised. And if we don't get this education thing right, if we don't stop graduating people who just don't have the skills to live in today's world, I fear for what's going to happen in society. And if we do pick things up and say, I love history. I love history class, but why don't we have future class? Why don't we let kids who are sitting around today saying, I'm just not with what I'm being taught. I'm not going to do it. I wasn't doing it last year. I wasn't doing it 10 years ago. And I'm not going to be doing it 10 years from now if we continue with this system. But if you show me, oh, wow, artificial intelligence is going to do all of these things. I want to watch the Jetsons. I don't want to watch the Flintstones. I want to see where things are going, not where they have been. And you show me what that is. Now today, I have a different understanding of my place in the world. I have a different understanding of what I'm actually coming to school for. And now I'm engaging around my curiosities in a way that I think that what AI is going to do is personalize things so that it's much more choose your own adventure. We can move not away from pedagogy, but towards pedagogy where things are self-directed. We understand what each student really, really, really is enjoying, what it is that they want, and we follow that. If we do that, I'm hopeful. If we don't, I'm very much not.
It's a very interesting consideration. Thank you for sharing, Jamaal. Dr. Kannan, I'm coming to you because I want to understand something when it comes to, and as it was alluded, and it's expressed earlier by Louis Rosenberg, who was on our first roundtable discussion with Dr. Furness this morning, if you will, at least in Silicon Morning PST. When we talk about the ecosystem of information, disinformation, misinformation, it's a really big deal when we look at it on the collegiate or academic level, because we may find ourselves in a situation, audience, where we're giving whole entire lectures, whole entire educational courses are being developed on misinformation and to the recipient or to the deliverer of this information, she or he had no consideration. They had no consideration that it was misinformation in the first place. And so it gets handed down from person to person. I have a real concern with this, Dr. Kannan. What are your concerns and considerations when it comes to this?
Yeah, the thing is, like in 2024, many students have been using a lot of AI tools. But the thing is, like, AI can generate the content, but the humans need to validate that whether the content which is generated by the AI is right or wrong. So that is what the human intervention is must. Where apart from this, the one more thing which I want to say, this is like, when we implement those kind of things, like for example, if we are giving an assignment to the students to write some assignments, but the thing is, like, we doesn't know whether the students are using some AI tools to create the content for that, and they're coming and submitting to us or not. So what we are doing in this is, like, we created some AI assessment policies at Watson University. So that will help, that will guide the students that how to use AI in an ethical way, where there will be no bias, and they will be in it, they will follow the ethics in how much AI content they should use it to write the assignment, so that there will be no misinformation will be happen, and it is validated by the students, and it is validated by the faculty who is going to evaluate these assignments.
Dr.
So
Kannan, I had to do a follow-up with that because it's really important. I'm sure that many of us concur. I certainly concur. Not that you needed me to, but I concur with what you just said. But my bigger question and concern is, have you begun to see this process of human validation? Has there been implementation of processes and methods that have contributed towards this way of thinking?
yeah, it's absolutely, uh, human intervention is must in this. Without that, we cannot validate AI. That I am sure about it. Because if you take ChatGPT will generate the content, because it has been trained till 2021. Apart from that, if you ask any details, it won't give. And even if you ask to write some article, and if you ask to give some reference to that, those references will be generated. But if you cross verify those references with the real time, it's not validated, it's a wrong one. So those things we need to look into it, and we need to validate those things, then only we can use it for writing some journals or something which you want to learn for it.
I
So
have a
that's
real hope. I have a real hope coming on the heels of that and piggybacking, if you will, on what you just shared. And thank you, Dr. Kannan. I have a real hope for academia as a whole, across the stratosphere, if you will, that I think they should open up to a cloud consistency of information on how to tackle this as a whole. It shouldn't be a single variant, if you will, or single one institution tackling this one problem for themselves, because it's shareable, it's relatable, and might we open source universal understanding when it comes to understanding the nativity and the etymology, and to some degree the beginnings of where content originates from, to maintain the integrity of the current disposition of that content itself. We'll put a pin in that for a second. Alan, I'm jumping over to you. David, you're going to be right on. But Alan, we need to go and talk about the personalized learning experience for students, not just the students that are here in Silicon Valley that are eating good every night, roofs over their heads. We're not going there now. We're going to talk about all the students in the world, the ones, the haves and the have-nots, the ones that can afford a decent education because their parents are well-to-do, which is great, and the ones that cannot, and the ones that will not have this type of access to what we have. And I'm not talking about even to the poverty of what we see here in the American ghettos, also in other places where ghettos don't even exist, where barely anything exists. You've been in some of those trenches, Alan, with some of the work that you've dedicated your career path to, especially when it comes to education. How are we going to be able to personalize these experiences for those that are out there that don't even understand completely what, even as Dr. Kannan just mentioned, the Chat GPTs, Bards, the Geminis of the world? How do we give great access to them? And when we do, what does that personalized experience and might it look like?
Thank you. That's a wonderful question. I'm grateful to have lived in 10 countries and backpacked some 80 countries. I worked at the World Bank at a college, which is international development. And so I think I can share a little bit of how we're using it in a variety of projects and how eventually it'll make its way into low income, middle income countries, which is really the challenge of access, right? How do we get people to be able to access AI from these settings? And in our experience, we have 15 high school interns. And what they've done is very instructive in how they're using AI to create tools. And I think our panel, we're not as young. So we're still quite institutionalized people. We come from PhD programs. We're born out of that very institutional structure. And I think if we take a look at how younger people are exercising themselves with the use of AI, their creativity, generative AI, it lends a lot of insight, and it's probably due to the freshness of their creativity. As soon as we have interns go into college, they lose their creativity. It's like night and day. If they're 15, 16, we just took high school interns all over the place, but if they're 15, their creativity is off the charts. So there's something in education and the institutions that we all belong to or went through that have crushed creativity. And I think that AI in itself shows its greatest potential when you have a group of about 5 people that are highly creative. And you can see this in medical research. We work with different hospitals and institutions, but when you see a small team of highly creative medical researchers, in the last few years, the production was quite low as far as publications and so forth. But and other people published a lot more incremental research. I think if you follow some of those models of teams of 5 that are highly creative people who want to learn every day, it's where you start seeing, at least that's how we've started to see the greatest productivity, the greatest advancements, and the greatest research.
But Alan, as a follow-up, what about those that just do not have access to any of that at all, that are in the trenches far from these shores where tech is being developed? I think we get a sense, and Alan, I know that you're with me on this, and panel, I know that you're with us on this, and audience, I know that you're with us on this. And the reality is where we're building today, we see 60 miles out from where we have technological innovations cross continental, transmetropolitan, 60 miles out from that, any given tech destination is a whole different world. And my concern is, are we as technologists, as educators and learners and students ourselves, are we doing enough with great consideration for outside of our technical ecosystems, outside of our ecosystems of community, if you will, to be able to democratize and give access to these populations that have no idea of what's headed their way?
Yes, to answer your question, there's a number of conferences and initiatives around the world to be able to create greater access, and just access to the internet to begin with is revolutionary in itself. But we have a long way to go, and I think a lot of it, to be perfectly clear, there's a lot of international development around the world that is driven by Chinese development and the way they build infrastructure in countries in West Africa and Latin America. And I say it from an American perspective, they know how to build empire. And what they build is a lot of infrastructure that will probably have the most lasting impact in access by reduction of poverty. They're just very good at building infrastructure and doing it in a way that's reliable and in a way that's favorable to countries that take in these kind of approaches. Very strange of me to say this, but they're very good at it.
No, I can attest to that. I do know people in Africa that are very interesting situations, and it's crazy to hear some of the things that they tell me about how much of a benefit it's been for Asian technology, if you will, to be able to help accelerate their lives. Ellie, we're going to get to you in just a moment, but David, I want to be able to come to where you're at, come into your living room, your office, wherever you're at, I need to get inside your mind for a moment and bring everybody with me, because I want to talk for a second about ethics, but I want to talk about it when it comes to the intersection of AI and education, because I have a real concern. You're dealing and doing incredible things at Meharry with NASA, and you're dealing with things when it comes to data. And my concern is, when we talk about developing these large language foundational models, future forward, not just scraping the internet, but vertical focused models that are being developed. When we talk about who's in the room curating the data, I have a real concern that this data is not being curated from enough different cultures in this world, enough different people in this world, and that these machines that we're becoming more reliant on for access of information, we are subjecting all the people that didn't have the contribution to these data sets. We're subjecting them to a limited, finite amount of cultural input. My concern is, with what you're seeing, with all the incredible work you're doing, what is the relationship between ethics, data, AI, and education, sir?
That's a great question. That's one that we encounter daily, whether it's working on NASA-funded projects or NSF or NIH-funded projects. When you look at these different AI methodologies and tools, these innovative tools, how are we enhancing them? How are we enhancing them for the learning experience for not only teachers, but for educators as well? But looking at the data, how is that data ethical? How are we making sure that everyone has a place and a seat at the table to make sure that the data meets the unique requirements of each and every project that everyone's working on? We look at things like individual needs. We look at preferences. How is that data tailored to the specific project? When we look at the different cultural groups, how are we ensuring that the instruction, that the approach, that the tools all have an integrated approach? So when you look at things like ethics, ethics is paramount and ethics is key. I'm glad you asked that question, because when we work on the ethics portion of that, we look at the content creation. We look at the personalized learning. We look at all of these different approaches that enable the AI tools and the methods to be not only fair, but to make sure that they're reasonable and everyone has a hand in the overall creation and the ongoing development.
If an XR headset can track my eyes with incredible precision, now this multimodal AI companion that's sitting in my living room and all of ours, it can track much more than just my eye movement. And the more that it becomes intelligent, if you will, artificially, now all of a sudden we lead into theory of mind. Not only the words is it conveying and taking it to the perceptron and doing all the things it's doing with the bat propagation algorithm and figuring itself out in the meanderings of this model, but now it's saying, I could read your expressions, your considerations, and then one day, this same AI audience will say, not only can I read you, but wait, I think I have feelings. I think that I have emotions. And it will begin to move and enable and act off of that. But with the consideration audience, that artificial intelligent thing is taking its cues and characteristics and culture from human intelligentsia. My concern is, which human is it gaining and garnering its inspiration from? We could put a pin in that. Ellie, run with it. You had something to share.
Yeah, I had multiple things, and now I'm stringing my ideas together. So I think, firstly, everybody should read More Than a Glitch, which is a wonderful, fantastic book, which talks about a lot of the things that we're talking about right now. I recently read it in the book club for the Responsible Technology Coalition.
Wait, Ellie, who's the
Yep.
author of that so we can give due diligence to that?
More Than a Glitch by Meredith Browsard. Okay, my blurb back. There we go. So
Thank you. Please proceed. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I think this book covers many important things, both in the fact that AI is math. That's why I use language mathematically when referring to it. It also talks about who's in the room when developing technology. I do agree that having creative people on the team is incredibly important, but it's also having people who either have the lived experience or who have dedicated their lives to understanding the various types of people who will be using the technology that will be released. And I think that is even more important. This develops even more so when we talk about technology education development. I feel like too often in conversations that I've had in the US, it's looking internationally of how other countries need support without looking locally. I am from the South Bronx, and the only reason why I know computer science is because a teacher threw out the curriculum and taught us all HTML in the 7th grade. And now I'm getting my master's in data analytics and computational social science. So I understand what that pivotal change looks like. I am also Ghanaian American, so first generation. My parents immigrated from Ghana, and I recently came back from Ghana, and I'm now helping cousins pursue master's degree in public policy, and I'm trying to look up what initiatives would be like. But first, I had to understand what it is like right now back home in Ghana. So I think from a both national and international perspective, you really have to take into account what the local community needs, what the local community is curious about. And from technology development, we really have to understand that we need to first, we really have to understand who's in the room, recognize it, say it out loud, and then improve it, fix it, and take responsibility for it every step of the way.
Ellie, I think it's just so extraordinary. One, thank you for sharing that. And I think it's so extraordinary when you have leaders such as yourself that don't forget where they come from and they take that to move forward. Because sometimes we go so high off a mountain, we tend to forget where we come from and we become this completely different person. It is what it is. But you're taking some of that ancestral heritage with you and you're applying that to policy and all the other endeavors, even into our minds under the sound of your voice, what we just heard. I find that very powerful. Jamaal, we're coming into you because I want to talk about this classroom and someone that's building education and educational school grounds, virtual or tangible, if you will. But I need to think about, when we think about how can educators ensure a balanced integration of AI into the classroom, because as it's been said already today about the human in the loop, making sure that we're not abstaining, because let's look at it for a second, audience. 2023, January, Q1, here's the headlines for education. We're not using education. We're not using AI in our classrooms. We're not letting our students use AI. Here comes spring 2023. Well, maybe we'll let them use a little bit of AI, just a little, but not too much. And here comes the end of summer 2023. We need to use this technology. We don't know how to use it, but it needs to be head on. Now, 2024, it's all up in the air, education, academia. So let's have a discussion where we're at today, not abstaining from this technology because we've taken in too much existential crisis from those that have no idea what they're talking about, but that's a whole comment. But when we talk about it now, whether we like it or not, the relationship between human and AI has gotten closer than it's ever been. My question is this, Jamaal. What does that relationship mean when it comes to balance in the classroom? And let me please, I beg you to add this caveat. When I was a kid, I was on the spectrum, ADHD, special education. Special education. The teachers cared for me more than what other standard normal teachers would, and we still care about our teachers. I just don't think that AI has the capability of caring for me like my second and third grade teachers did. I don't think it'll have the patience, and it certainly does not come from the neighborhoods where I came from as I lived in Germany, Texas, and California. Jamaal, what does that relationship look like in the modern classroom, sir?
So I first want to give like a quick shout to Ellie, you know, in coming from the South Bronx, coming from a place where I've had a chance to be inside the classrooms. What I know is that brilliance and genius, that those things are everywhere. It's the opportunity that's not always there. And so you give people opportunity and they get an opportunity to shine, and salute to you for doing so, Ellie. In terms of the educators today, the challenge is that there's so much trash, like professional development and things like that, where teachers, you know, are like, it's another thing you want to give to me. And so you got to find ways to show them exactly how this is going to help. And there are teachers seeing. I was just at a great PD on Friday by AI for Education. So it's absolutely happening. But the educators have to learn, And what I'm excited about is they get an opportunity now to learn in conjunction with the young people, because educators don't know how to use it. Young people don't know how to use it. Why not sit down and actually learn how to use it together? Start to do what we should have been doing anyway, and now have interdisciplinary learning and intergenerational learning. So we're learning not just this, we're not sitting in a box and saying, okay, I'm in biology in 5th grade, and so I have to learn this. Like, nobody's brain works that way. If we want to learn all of these things, obviously things have to be scaffolded, but to introduce kind of AI 101 to teachers and students at the same time, that's something that I'm doing. And that's something that a lot of people are doing. And now the student gets to look up at the teacher and smile and see, wow, like the teacher is learning as well. I think that interaction, I've seen that interaction be one that helps to kind of improve upon the relationship, because if a teacher is just, do this and listen to me and things to that effect, then the students are not going to care to listen to them. If the teacher is sitting there next to the young person learning with them, that changes things. And the last thing I'll say on it is that this is already, that there's tools like Magic School and Comigo, where these things, they are helping teachers write rubrics and write lessons and all kind of things to that effect. So there's lots of time saving right away that give teachers the opportunity to sit down and go and look at the person across from them and actually have more engagement with the student versus engagement with the technology. So they're saving time and being able to create better relationships already, which I think can lessen the teacher shortage, because it gives them more of what they got into the industry for in the first place.
Thank you, Jamaal. And Alan, I'm actually jumping over you this one for a specific reason. I know some of your outreach work and what you've done when it's come to education and dealing with accessibility and accessible communities. It seems like right now in real time, the game is changing where we could do more and use AI for good when it comes to getting greater access for those with disabilities. And we look at students, not just children, but students in adult education. So many people have just disrupted abilities that are debilitating and very difficult for them to be able to access information. But it seems to me that AI, I won't say it's a cure-all, but could serve as a bridge to be able to help some of this, even in remote locations. What are your thoughts on that, Alan?
Yes, I think there's a lot of potential, and we're probably at the height of all the possible positive psychology we could throw at it. But at the same time, we've had great developments in technology over the last 30 years, and we still have, whole parts of the United States that are pretty much wastelands. You have white ghettos in Ohio, black ghettos in Mississippi, here in Texas, Latino ghettos. And so we still had 1.5 million dead from the pandemic with all that technology. We still had 20 years of failed wars all over the world. We still had all sorts of bad judgment, even with all that technology we've developed over the last 30 years. So I think we have to kind of temper down as far as AI and its abilities and its capabilities. I think 10 years from now, we still will have those ghettos in the United States, and we still will have those problems. But I think as far as how it would impact us as access is concerned, you still need the same things that people needed before. You needed access to the internet.
That's right.
To be able to access. So if you don't have access to the internet at this time, what chance do you have of accessing AI? So we haven't even gotten to the point where we can fulfill access for the internet. Can we get there first, and then build upon that for access to AI?
And I want to do a follow-up, and thank you for sharing that with Alan. Dr. Kannan, I want you to follow up on that, because he brings up a very powerful point that we're so headfast here in Silicon Valley and elsewhere around the world that we completely think that we've arrived when it comes to technological progress and development. And we certainly do look at our educational institutions that seem more solidified for the intake of this. But the world is much bigger than an academic and educational institution. And we realize that our educators have to teach our students so that they can go out to the highways and the byways and the forests and the mountains and to be able to teach what they've learned in these educational institutions. Dr. Kannan, but how does that add up when so much of the world hasn't even wrapped their mind around Wi-Fi, 5G, broadband, internet access? It seems to me that the challenge of the student is more than what they may have signed up for, yet it's arrived and here we are. what are the challenges when it comes to present day academics and educating our student educational force and preparing them to be able to go out into this AI era of world of work?
Yeah. So the first thing, which the previous question which you asked for Ellie and Jamal Thomas. So I just want to answer one more point to that. First thing
Please.
is like when we think about those things, that the thing is like the students and faculties need to be get trained on various AI tools. If they know how to use it, then the problem will get solved. So all education institutions first need to train the educators on various AI tools, how to use it, and how to reduce their work burden. So that, like for example, to create the course outline, to create the curriculum, and to create some PowerPoint presentations. So that if they spend much time, because nowadays the faculties are taking much time in creating the PowerPoint presentations, then course curriculum building, those kind of things. So they can use the AI tool, and they can complete all those tasks in a short time, and they can keep much more time to interact with the students, and can get more trained on much on with the students, so that they can learn a lot of things from the faculty directly. That is one thing which I want to say. This coming to this AI driven analytics improvement curriculum development, where the thing Alan said, the thing is like uh, the people which we want to learn much things in that future. Yeah, absolutely, I'm accepting to that. The thing is like we need to give the training, especially nowadays. If you see here, recently we connected with Johannesburg School of Business, University of Ghana. So they literally asking us, they need lot of workshops need to be conducted on AI. So we are supporting them, and they want Voxen to be the knowledge partner in guiding them and monitoring them what kind of AI tools can be implemented for the students to work with that. And also the faculties are getting trained on how to do the literature survey, how to write an article using. So we are training on lot of AI tools like litmap, uh, perplexity AI, then chat gpt on subscription as well as without subscription, how to use it. So in ethical way we are training those people, because all the peoples are not coming from technology aspect. So in that way we need to train all those people.
Right.
That is one thing. Second thing which I want to say about this broadband 5G and all. So in Voxen we are creating a chatbots for each course, and for that you no need of any kind of internet, something like that. Once you install in your mobile, then you can use it for without internet, where if you ask any questions on the specific course, it will answer to you. You no need to completely read the study material from start to the conclusion. So simply what are the doubts you have, you just ask in the chatbot, it will answer to you. So that is what the trending technology is coming up into that. And we have signed an MOU with a Metalog company. It's a metaverse company. What they do in the sense, like if you want to build some course curriculum in the metaverse, where the people doesn't have the oculus glasses to view in that. So we are creating in three platforms, where the students and faculties can access the course curriculum not only with oculus glasses, they can look into desktop, and also they can have access in mobile. So that is what the technology comes into the crucial role, where it makes very simpler to all the people across the globe. They can use it not only with oculus, they can use in the mobile itself. That's what the technology now.
Let's run with that. Let's
Yeah.
run with that, David. Let's just run with that, because what Dr. Kanan just expressed was so appropriate for where we're about to head right now. So, audience, I hope you're with us. Let's lean in for a moment. Let's gather closer, because we're about to take it there for a second and really wrap our minds around what Dr. Kanan just expressed. Who teaches the teachers? Who teaches the teachers? Because Dr. Kanan just expressed, when it comes to educators, we have to educate them, but who teaches the teachers, and who teaches those that teach the teachers? What I'm getting at is this. This is a very interesting consideration when you just talked about a chatbot. We're not here to offer confusion, but please just walk with us for a moment, audience. Let's look at this for a second, David. Here we are in a situation where a chatbot is justified. Let's look at one of the biggest gainful employees, and let's say here in the United States, it's truck drivers, and let's say men are the majority of those drivers until they're not. The delivery system has never been more abundant and ubiquitous in this modern era than it's ever been. And right now, we still can't find enough people to drive the trucks because we got to have our DoorDash and Amazon deliveries. Here's the consideration. It now seems that it may be justified for a robot to take that place because of demand. And if humankind doesn't want to take that job, me as a truck driver or an owner of a truck driving company, I can now justify robots driving these autonomous vehicles to be able to service humankind and mankind because of demand. But here's the consideration. As we move forward into AI adoption, we are going to see less and less jobs being taken away. More and more jobs, being taken away. But we did a study between January 1st of 2024 and January 12th, 2024. Over 110,000 people were laid off globally. Over 110,000 people were laid off from technology companies and banking just in 12 days of this month. But here's the consideration. Now all these people are laid off. They have no plan B, many of them. They want to go drive that truck, but the truck owner is saying it's too late. We have robots here. Here's my point. David, you are working in the world of robotics. You are working in the world of STEM. And we are telling our children across the country, no matter the color, no matter the gender, wherever they're at, we're telling them STEM is the way to go. They sign up for it. They do what they're supposed to do. But all of a sudden, when it comes to gainful employment, there may be a robot that did the interview process better than them. Robots, we don't have to give them benefits. We don't have to give them health care. We plug them in, turn it off at the end of the day. Here's where I'm getting at, David. Help me to understand and help us to understand the sense of this. There was a time where we talked about, as Dr. Futurist talked about, the R2-D2s of the world. We talk about robots, and we left that in Star Trek, and we left that in Star Wars. But the reality is that it seems to me that these AIs that we're dealing with, they're about to have an embodiment when it comes to how they operate. And in some ways, these robots are here. What does this world look like when it comes to AI, robotics, and education? And what does it mean when we're integrating and preparing the teachers that teach the teachers? Who is doing the teaching?
So it's a very good question. What does it look like? It looks like leveraging data-driven insights. It looks like leveraging new and cutting-edge adaptive technologies. When we look at these different AI technologies, how are we tailoring these experiences for not only our learners, but for our educators and for our instructors? How are we tailoring these new experiences? Whether it's through adaptive learning platforms, personalized content recommendation, new tutoring systems, language processing. How are we bringing all that together to not only facilitate new learning, but meeting the diverse needs of our students? When we look at all this data-driven technology and these new technologies, we have to think, how is it recognizing us? How are we using things like facial expression? How are we using these computing technologies in a way that can provide academic success for a learner? Because that's the ultimate goal, academic success. When we look at that academic success, we look at data-driven insights, we look at intelligent systems. We want our students to not only take ownership of this learning journey, but we want them to have a deeper engagement and a deeper understanding to where it ultimately enhances educational outcomes and brings us greater and more diverse resources.
But who teaches the teachers, David?
That's a good question. We teach the teachers. Participants teach the teachers. We all have a hand in that ongoing success for not only deeper engagement, but for meaningful understanding and engagement.
You know what I think, David? And then let's go one by one in a rapid fire. We'll close this thing out and get ready for day two. You know what I think? I believe those that participate at the GatherVerse community at the intersection of emerging technologies and humanity, I think that they're some of the most capable people to go out here and teach the world on the better way to move forward when it comes to adoption, acceleration, development, build, and for who we build for, ultimately, hopefully, of innovation for human betterment on a number of different levels. But let's do this one by one. What's the most important thing that we need to know from you? Let's be very brief in our remarks, please. Starting with Ellie, what's the most important thing? Is the most important thing, in fact, we're going to start with Jamaal, work our way up. Ellie, you're going to close out. What's the most important thing that we need to know about at the intersection of AI and education, Jamaal?
That we have an incredible opportunity as a country to really lead the social technology associated with upgrading our human operating system. That we've been told as a country that we are a melting pot, but we not, and we've never really been, but we can be like a potluck where everybody brings all of their best dishes with all of their different ingredients together to create something where we learn how to get along. Like these are things. This is a part of we have the social emotional learning in school now.
Yes.
Like and we put that behind the curriculum.
Yes.
If we put that in front of the curriculum and start the process of actually learning how to connect and engage, across ages and across, racial and economic disparities, then we can find a way to actually improve the world. And that's what GatherVerse is all about. So thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Jamaal. Dr. Kannan, please briefly, really quick.
Yeah. So coming to the education sector, if you see that we have a traditional way of teaching of innovation pedagogy, like for block teaching, board teaching, PowerPoint presentation, those kind of things. But coming to the technology, as it's a competitive world where we need to build our skills, so technology plays a crucial role. So we need to make this technology as a new innovation pedagogy, and we need to implement in the education system that creates more gaming experience and new learning experience for the students.
Thank you, Dr. Kannan. David, quickly, please.
Yes, it's a multidisciplinary collaborative approach between educators, researchers, content developers, stakeholders. Bring everyone to the table and make sure there's a consistent focus on reliability, accuracy, and educational effectiveness.
Thank you, David. Alan, please briefly.
Yes, I would just say for the audience, I guess, organize yourself into teams of 5 very creative people. Surround yourself by very creative people, because they're showing consistently across industries to just leave the orbit as far as creativity using AI. And so just that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan. Ellie?
Thank you for having me here. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my ideas as somebody who's entering the industry. Remember that you and everything you're bringing to the table is immensely invaluable, and that cross-disciplinary curiosity that you hold is what's going to make the future. Continue learning and continue gathering.
And on that note, Roundtable, thank you. Audience, thank you. Join us for day 2 at GatherVerse AI Summit 2024. Share what you've heard today. A lot's been said. Consider it. Keep safe. Keep well. Do good. Our gather was well.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.